My name is Sarah, and I used to think I had it all figured out. I had a loving husband, a quaint home in a small town in the USA, and a stable job. But somewhere along the way, the sparkle faded. I found myself living a life that felt more like a routine than an adventure. My husband, David, was a good man, but he was also predictable. He worked long hours at his accounting firm, and when he came home, he was often too tired to engage in anything beyond the mundane. Our conversations revolved around bills, grocery lists, and plans for the weekend, if we had any excitement at all. To my amazing subscribers, thank you for your unwavering support. Your encouragement inspires me to share these stories of love, betrayal, and self-discovery. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more captivating tales that explore the complexities of the human heart. I often caught myself staring out the window, watching the world pass by, yearning for something more. My friends would assure me that my life was perfect, but deep down, I felt a nagging emptiness. I watched the couples around me, some struggling, some thriving, but all of them seemed to have something I was missing: a spark, a thrill, a sense of adventure. That was before Jason entered my life. He was new in town, a rugged man with a mysterious aura that instantly drew attention. He was everything David wasn't: impulsive, daring, and undeniably captivating. I first noticed him at the local coffee shop. He sat alone at a corner table, sketching in a worn notebook. His dark hair fell haphazardly over his forehead, and when he glanced up, I felt a jolt of electricity that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't help but stare. I was drawn to him like a moth to a flame. As I sipped my coffee, I overheard snippets of his conversation with the barista. He spoke with passion about traveling the world, living life on his own terms. It was a stark contrast to the life I was leading, and I felt a pang of longing in my chest. As days turned into weeks, I found myself returning to that coffee shop more often, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. I told myself it was just curiosity, but deep down, I knew it was more. One fateful afternoon, as I waited for my coffee, I bumped into him. "Sorry about that," he said, flashing a charming smile that made my heart race. His voice was smooth, with a hint of mischief. "No problem," I replied, trying to play it cool, even though my palms were sweaty. We struck up a conversation. Jason was charismatic and full of life, and I found myself laughing and sharing stories like I hadn't in years. He asked about my life, my dreams, and I felt a connection that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was captivated by his sense of adventure, and for the first time in ages, I felt alive. But as the sun set on that day, reality crashed back in. I was married. I had a husband who loved me, who trusted me. How could I even entertain the idea of something more with Jason? Yet, the thrill of our encounter lingered in my mind, igniting a fire that I couldn't ignore. As I returned home that evening, David was already settled on the couch, engrossed in a sports game. He barely looked up as I entered the room. I forced a smile and joined him, but inside, I felt like a stranger in my own life. The mundane routine felt suffocating, and a part of me longed for the excitement that Jason had brought into my world. That night, as I lay in bed, the weight of my choices loomed over me. I knew I was playing with fire, but the thrill of temptation was intoxicating. I was on the precipice of something that could change everything, and as much as I tried to push it away, I felt myself teetering closer to the edge. As I drifted off to sleep, my mind wandered to Jason, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one filled with danger, excitement, and the thrill of the forbidden. Little did I know, this was only the calm before the storm. The days passed slowly, each one blending into the next. I found myself counting down the hours until I could escape the mundane rhythm of my life and return to the coffee shop, hoping to see Jason again. My heart raced with anticipation, and every time I stepped inside, I felt a rush of adrenaline that I hadn't experienced in years. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon when I saw him again. The coffee shop was bustling, filled with the soothing aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the comforting sound of chatter. I spotted Jason in his usual corner, sketching intently. A sense of excitement washed over me as I approached him, my heart pounding. "Mind if I join you?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He looked up, his blue eyes sparkling with mischief. I was hoping you would. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me. I laughed, feeling a warmth spread through me. Never. Just busy with life. The word felt heavy on my tongue, a reminder of the choices I was making. We talked for hours, losing ourselves in conversation. Jason shared his dreams of exploring the world, his passion for art, and his unconventional lifestyle. He was a free spirit, and every word he spoke ignited a longing within me that I couldn't ignore. I found myself sharing more than I intended, revealing my frustrations with my marriage and the monotony that had settled over my life. I wish I could just escape sometimes, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. It feels like I'm stuck in this never-ending cycle. He leaned in closer, his gaze intense. You don't have to be stuck, Sarah. Life is too short to live in a box. You deserve to feel alive. His words sent a thrill through me, and for a moment, I imagined what life could be like if I took a leap of faith. The thought was exhilarating yet terrifying. As the rain pattered against the windows, I felt drawn to him in a way that was both exciting and dangerous. Our encounters became a ritual, each meeting filled with laughter and unspoken tension. We shared secrets, dreams, and desires, and with each passing day, I felt the walls of my mundane life crumbling around me. Jason's presence was intoxicating, and I found myself craving his company more than I had ever anticipated. But with that craving came guilt. I loved David, he was a good man who had always supported me. Yet, as my connection with Jason deepened, I began to question everything. The thrill of our friendship turned into something more, a dangerous game that I knew I was playing with fire. One evening, as we sat in the dim light of the coffee shop, Jason's hand brushed against mine. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through me, and I looked up to see his eyes locked onto mine, filled with a mix of longing and mischief. Sarah, he said softly, there's something between us. I can't ignore it. Can you? I held my breath, my heart racing. This was the moment I had both anticipated and dreaded. I wanted to deny it, to tell him that I was married and that we couldn't cross that line. But as I looked into his eyes, I felt a pull, a magnetic force drawing me closer. I don't know, I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. This is all so confusing. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my skin. What's confusing is living a life that doesn't make you happy. You deserve to feel alive, Sarah. And just like that, in that small coffee shop, the air thick with unspoken desire, I found myself lost in his gaze, surrendering to the moment. With a surge of courage, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. Softly at first, then with increasing urgency as the world around us faded away. The kiss was electric, a spark igniting a fire that I had kept buried for far too long. It was thrilling and terrifying, a mixture of everything I had ever wanted and everything I feared. I pulled away, breathless, my heart racing. What have we done? I whispered, the reality crashing back in. We've opened a door, he replied, his voice low and filled with intensity. And now, it's up to you to decide if you want to walk through it. As I stood there, torn between the safety of my old life and the thrill of the unknown, I felt a rush of emotions. The choice was no longer mine alone, it was a decision that would ripple through my life, affecting everyone involved. Returning home that night, I felt a weight in my chest. David was waiting for me, his face lighting up as I entered the room. He was so blissfully unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I forced a smile, but it felt like a mask, hiding the truth of what I had just experienced. Hey, how was your day? He asked, eager for conversation. It was fine, I replied, my voice distant. The excitement of my afternoon with Jason clashed painfully with the mundane questions of my husband. As I lay in bed that night, sleep eluded me. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with thoughts of Jason and the kiss that had changed everything. The thrill, the danger, it was intoxicating. But the guilt weighed heavily on my heart, reminding me of the life I had built with David. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. I was standing on the edge of a precipice, and the plunge into the unknown was both terrifying and exhilarating. I knew I had a choice to make, one that would shape my destiny. As I drifted into a restless sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a wild ride. One that would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and desire. Days turned into a blur of excitement and guilt as my clandestine relationship with Jason deepened. Each stolen moment felt like a thrilling escape from my mundane life, but it also weighed heavily on my conscience. I was trapped in a whirlwind of emotions, thrilled by the passion I had discovered, yet consumed by the guilt of betraying my husband. Our meetings became more frequent, and I found myself looking forward to each encounter with a mix of anticipation and dread. We would meet at the coffee shop, sometimes slipping away to secluded spots around town, sharing laughter and secrets as if the world outside didn't exist. Jason brought out a side of me that I had forgotten, spontaneous, adventurous, and alive. One Friday evening, after a particularly long week, Jason suggested we take a drive to the coast. The idea thrilled me, but a wave of panic washed over me as I thought about David. What would I say? How could I justify my absence? But the allure of the ocean, the promise of freedom, was too enticing to resist. Just a quick trip, Jason assured me, his eyes sparkling with excitement. You need this, Sarah. Just one night away from everything. I hesitated, but the thought of spending a night away from my responsibilities, away from the suffocating routine of my life, was irresistible. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I agreed, and we set off into the twilight, leaving behind the weight of my choices. The drive was filled with laughter and music, the tension of my double life fading into the background. As we approached the coast, the salty air filled my lungs, invigorating me. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, and I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. We found a quiet beach, the waves crashing gently against the shore. Jason spread out a blanket, and we sat together, watching the sun dip below the horizon. As the sky darkened, the stars began to twinkle above us, and I felt a sense of magic in the air. Isn't it beautiful? Jason said, his voice low as he turned to me. It really is, I replied, my heart racing. The moment felt surreal, almost like a dream. Here I was, with a man who made me feel alive, escaping the constraints of my ordinary life. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. You deserve to feel this way all the time, Sarah. You shouldn't have to hide who you are. His words resonated within me, awakening a desire I had buried for far too long. I leaned closer, drawn to him by an invisible force. The world around us faded, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. I kissed him, and the passion that ignited between us was overwhelming. It was everything I had longed for, a heady mix of desire, danger, and the thrill of the forbidden. But as we pulled away, reality crashed back in. I was married. I had a husband who loved me, who trusted me. The guilt flooded back, and I felt a pang of shame. What are we doing? I whispered, my heart heavy with the weight of my choices. We're living, Sarah, he replied, his voice filled with intensity. You have to let go of the guilt. This is about you, your happiness. But how could I forget about David? The thought of him waiting at home, oblivious to my betrayal, made my stomach churn. I felt like I was living a lie, caught in a web of my own making. The night turned into a blur of passion and guilt as we lost ourselves in each other. I felt alive in a way I had never experienced before, but each moment was tinged with the knowledge that I was betraying someone who loved me. As dawn broke, I found myself lying next to Jason on the beach, the waves gently lapping at the shore. I felt both exhilarated and terrified. I had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. The thrill of my new life was intoxicating, but the fear of discovery loomed over me like a dark cloud. Returning home that afternoon, my heart raced as I entered the house. David was in the kitchen, preparing lunch. He looked up and smiled, and I felt a rush of guilt wash over me. How could I look him in the eye after everything? Hey, how was your trip? He asked, his voice warm and inviting. It was good, I replied, forcing a smile. The lie felt heavy on my tongue, and I could see the trust in his eyes, a trust one was shattering with every secret I kept. As we sat down to eat, I felt a growing distance between us. David talked about his day, sharing mundane details that felt foreign to me now. I found myself nodding along, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the moments I had shared with Jason. After lunch, I excused myself and retreated to our bedroom, my sanctuary turned prison. I paced the room, grappling with the choices I had made. I had tasted freedom, but I was also aware of the price I would have to pay. That evening, I received a message from Jason: "Can't stop thinking about you. Can't wait to see you again." The anticipation sent a thrill through me, but it was quickly followed by guilt. I was caught in a cycle of desire and betrayal, and I knew I had to confront my feelings before they spiraled out of control. As I lay in bed that night, I realized that I was at a crossroads. I could continue down this path, embracing the passion that Jason offered, or I could face the reality of my marriage and the choices I had made. The decision weighed heavily on my heart. As I drifted into a restless sleep, I knew that the thrill of temptation was only just beginning. The choices I made would shape my life in ways I couldn't yet imagine, and as I lay there, I felt the weight of my desires pulling me deeper into the abyss. The days that followed my secret trip to the coast felt like a tightrope walk between exhilaration and dread. My life had become a series of precarious balances, between my responsibilities as a wife and the intoxicating thrill of my affair with Jason. Each encounter with him felt like a step deeper into a world where I was finally discovering myself, yet every moment spent with David felt increasingly like a performance, a facade that I struggled to maintain. As I navigated the delicate dance of my double life, the cracks in my marriage began to widen. David, usually so attentive and loving, seemed to sense that something was amiss. He had always been good at reading me, his intuition was sharp, and I could see the worry etched across his face. "Sarah, is everything okay?" he asked one evening, his brow furrowed with concern. "You've been a bit distant lately." I forced a smile, my heart racing. "I'm just tired, that's all. Work has been hectic, and I guess I'm a little overwhelmed." He nodded, but I could see the doubt lingering in his eyes. I hated lying to him, but I felt trapped between two worlds, one that offered stability and love, and another that promised excitement and passion. I didn't know how to bridge the gap. That weekend, Jason and I planned to meet again. He suggested a hike in the nearby mountains, a chance to escape the town and immerse ourselves in nature. My heart raced at the thought of being away from everything, but a wave of guilt crashed over me. How could I justify another day away from David? But the allure of the mountains, the promise of freedom, was too strong to resist. I told myself that I needed this. It was a chance to reconnect with myself, a side of me that had been buried under the weight of my obligations. I made my excuses to David, claiming I needed some fresh air and a break from the routine. As I drove to the meeting point, I felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The mountains loomed ahead, majestic and inviting, but I also felt a sense of foreboding. I was crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. When I arrived, Jason was already there, his face lighting up with a smile as I approached. "You made it," he exclaimed, and I felt my heart flutter. It was impossible to deny the chemistry between us, a magnetic pull that drew me closer with every passing moment. We set off on the trail, the air crisp and invigorating. The beauty of the mountains surrounded us, and I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. We hiked in silence, the only sounds being the crunch of leaves underfoot and the distant call of birds. Each step felt like a release, a momentary escape from the complications of my life. As we reached a scenic overlook, I stood in awe of the view, vast expanses of greenery stretching out before us, the sky painted in brilliant shades of blue. It was breathtaking, and I turned to Jason, my heart racing. "Isn't it incredible?" I breathed, feeling alive in a way I hadn't in years. He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "Not as incredible as you, Sarah." His voice was low, filled with intensity, and I felt a rush of warmth spread through me. Before I knew it, he leaned in, capturing my lips with his. The kiss was passionate, igniting a fire within me that I had tried to suppress. I melted into him, the world around us fading into nothingness. It was exhilarating, but the guilt crashed back in like a wave, pulling me under. Jason, we can't, I said, pulling away, breathless. I can't keep doing this. He took a step back, his expression softening. I know it's complicated, but you deserve to be happy. You deserve to feel alive. His words resonated within me, but I felt torn. The thrill of my connection with him was intoxicating, yet I couldn't shake the guilt of betraying David. I was losing myself in the whirlwind of emotions, and I knew I had to confront the reality of my choices. That evening, as I returned home, I found David sitting on the couch, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the television. I felt a pang of guilt as I stepped inside, the contrast between our lives stark and painful. He looked up, his expression warm, but there was a flicker of concern in his eyes. "Hey, how was your day?" he asked, his voice laced with genuine curiosity. "It was good," I replied, forcing a smile. But inside, I felt like a stranger in my own life. The lies were piling up, and I was struggling to keep it all together. As I settled onto the couch next to him, I felt a growing distance between us. David chatted about his day, his voice a soothing balm, but I found it hard to focus. My mind was elsewhere, replaying the moments with Jason, the thrill of our connection, and the realization that I was on a path that could lead to heartbreak. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a torrent of emotions raging inside me. I was caught in a storm of desire and guilt, and I knew I had to make a choice. I was living a double life, and the weight of my decisions was becoming unbearable. The following morning, I woke up with a sense of dread. I had a decision to make, a confrontation that could change everything. I couldn't continue down this path without facing the consequences. As I prepared for the day, my phone buzzed with a message from Jason. "I can't stop thinking about you. Can we meet again soon?" My heart raced at the thought of seeing him again, but a wave of guilt washed over me. I was playing with fire, and I knew it was only a matter of time before everything unraveled. To my cherished subscribers, thank you for your continued support. Your encouragement inspires me to share these complex stories of love and betrayal. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications for more captivating tales that explore the intricacies of the human heart. As I stared at my reflection in the mirror, I realized that I was at a crossroads. The choices I made would determine the path of my life, and I felt the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. I was on the brink of a reckoning, and I knew that I had to confront the truth before it consumed me. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft beams across my bedroom. I stared at the ceiling, wrestling with the turmoil within me. The weight of my choices bore down heavily, and I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. My heart raced as I contemplated what lay ahead. I was standing on the precipice of a decision that would forever alter the course of my life. I got out of bed, the soft thud of my feet against the floor echoing in the silence of the morning. David was already gone, off to work as usual, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I felt a mix of relief and guilt wash over me. Relief, because I could take a moment to gather my thoughts, guilt, because he had trusted me, and I was betraying that trust. After a long shower, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring out the window at the world outside. Birds chirped in the trees, and the sun shone brightly, but everything felt muted, as if my life had lost its color. I was living a lie, and the truth was festering beneath the surface, threatening to spill over. As the hours passed, I made an agonizing decision. I needed to talk to David, to confront the reality of my actions. It was time to face the consequences. I sent Jason a quick message, telling him that I needed some time to think. A pang of regret hit me as I typed the words, but I knew I had to prioritize honesty, even if it meant shattering the fragile world I had built. When David came home that evening, I could sense the happiness radiating from him. He walked in with a smile, asking about my day, and I felt a surge of guilt. He was so blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation I had been avoiding. "David, can we talk?" I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Of course," he replied, concern flashing across his face. He moved to sit next to me, his expression shifting from happiness to worry. I struggled to find the right words, my heart racing as I searched for a way to explain everything. I need to tell you something important, I began, feeling the weight of my confession settling on my shoulders. Is it about work? Is something wrong? He asked, his brow furrowed. No, it's about us, I stammered, my throat tightening. I've been feeling lost, and I don't know how to say this, but I've been seeing someone else. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap, and I watched as the color drained from David's face. His eyes widened in shock, and I could see the pain etching itself into his features. What do you mean? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I've been drawn to someone else, I continued, tears welling in my eyes. I didn't want to hurt you, but I can't keep lying. I've been living a double life, and it's tearing me apart. David sat there, stunned, processing the words I had just spoken. I could see the heartbreak settling in, and it shattered me to witness the pain I had caused. How could you do this to me, Sarah? He asked, his voice filled with a mix of betrayal and confusion. I thought we were happy. I nodded, my heart aching. I thought so too. But I've been feeling empty for so long, and when I met him. Met him? David interrupted, anger and hurt lacing his words. And what? You just decided to throw everything away? I didn't mean to, I pleaded. It just happened. I was searching for something I didn't even know I needed. But it was wrong, and I realize that now. He shook his head, disbelief etched across his face. You didn't even think about how this would affect me? Our life together? Everything we built? I know, I said, tears streaming down my cheeks. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I was caught in a moment of weakness, and I let it spiral out of control. You deserve so much more than this. David stood up, running a hand through his hair, his voice trembling with emotion. I can't believe this is happening. I thought we had a solid marriage, Sarah. I trusted you. His words were like daggers, piercing through my heart. I felt helpless as I watched the man I loved grapple with the reality of my betrayal. I know I've destroyed your trust, and I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know how deeply I regret my actions. He turned away, looking out the window as if searching for answers in the fading light. What do you want, Sarah? Do you want to be with him? I shook my head, my voice shaking. I don't know. I don't want to lose you, but I can't ignore what I've done. I need to figure out who I am and what I truly want. David turned back to me, his expression a mixture of pain and anger. I need time to think. I can't process this right now. With that, he walked out of the room, leaving me alone with the consequences of my choices. As I sat in silence, the gravity of the situation sank in. I had shattered my marriage, and I was left with nothing but the weight of my decisions. I thought of Jason, the thrill he brought into my life, but even that felt tainted now. I realized that the excitement had come at a cost, and I was left with nothing but regret. The following days were filled with tension and silence. David was distant, and I could see the hurt in his eyes, a constant reminder of the pain I had caused. I tried to reach out, to talk to him, but every time I opened my mouth, I felt the weight of my betrayal choking me. In the midst of my turmoil, Jason reached out, eager to see me. I hesitated, torn between the thrill of seeing him and the knowledge that I was still deeply entangled in my own mess. I replied with a simple message, telling him I needed time to think. I could no longer ignore the reality of my situation. On a stormy night, as thunder rumbled in the distance, David and I finally had a heart-to-heart conversation. He expressed his pain, his disappointment, and his confusion. I can't just forget what you've done, Sarah, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. I don't know if I can trust you again. I know, I replied, my voice breaking. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want you to know how deeply sorry I am for what I did. I've been lost, and I want to find my way back. David looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and rage. I need to know if you want to be with him or if you want to be with me. You have to make a choice. I felt the weight of his words, and I realized that I had to confront the truth. I had chased excitement and passion, but in doing so, I had put my marriage at risk. I had to decide what mattered most to me. In that moment, I realized that I had to take responsibility for my actions. I needed to face the consequences, not just for myself, but for David as well. I had to figure out what love truly meant to me and whether I could rebuild what had been broken. As I lay in bed that night, I felt the storm raging outside, mirroring the chaos within me. I was at a crossroads, and the choices I made from here on out would shape my future. I had to confront my demons and find a way to navigate the tangled web of love and desire I had created. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. That's the end.